Okay, good evening, guys. This is day 2 of our SageMaker week. Today we're going to be getting into pre-trained XGBoost, deploying it and invoking it. I know you guys have already messed with XGBoost yesterday as well as adding endpoints, but we're gonna get more practice on doing it. So we have our lesson, lab, challenge, and then our TLOs and ELOs. So day 2 introduces SageMaker endpoints by deploying a pre-trained XGBoost model. You'll learn the complete lifecycle, running predictions locally, deploying a model to a live endpoint, invoking it through multiple methods, monitoring through CloudWatch, and deploying uh, a model. By the end of today, you'll have compared local and remote predictions, deployed live SageMaker endpoints, sent them prediction requests, and monitored their behavior. What are we trying to accomplish? Yesterday, you packaged a model artifact. Today, you'll see how the artifact becomes a live service. You'll start by running predictions locally to understand the baseline workflow, then deploy an AWS sample uh, XGBoost model to a SageMaker endpoint and compare local versus remote predictions like you did yesterday. So are there any questions before we get started? Okay, let's go ahead. SageMaker endpoints from artifact to service. So overview, let's start with where you are right now. Yesterday, you packaged a model artifact and uploaded it to S3 and more. The artifact is ready to deploy, but it's just sitting in storage. It's not doing anything yet. Today, the artifact becomes a live service when you deploy models at companies like Netflix or Spotify. They run as endpoints, so services that applications call to get predictions in real time. A user clicks a button, your app sends data to the endpoint, and milliseconds later, you have a prediction. So that's what we're building today. So let's go further. What is a SageMaker endpoint? An endpoint is a live service that hosts your model and responds to inference requests. Think of it like a web API, but instead of returning HTML or JSON data, it returns predictions. When you deploy an endpoint, uh, SageMaker spins up computer instances, so EC2 machines to run our model, loads our model artifact from S3, starts a service that listens for prediction requests, and then routes requests to our model and returns results. Endpoints stay running until we delete them. They consume compute resources, which means they cost money while active. That's why monitoring and cleanup matter. So emphasis on cleanup. So whenever you guys build something and after you guys are finished with it, make sure you guys destroy it in the AWS console. So we'll learn both today. The deployment process. So it's 3 steps. Deploying a model to an endpoint happens in 3 steps. Each step creates a different resource. So step 1, we create a model. A model resource tells SageMaker where to find our artifact and container to use. It's just metadata. It doesn't run anything yet. So this example creates a model resource. So we have SageMaker.model. We're specifying where the model data is coming from, the image URI, and then our role. So the model resource points to our artifact in S3 and specifies which container image to use. For built-in algorithms like XGBoost, SageMaker provides the container. For custom models, we specify our own. So step 2, create an endpoint configuration. An endpoint configuration defines how the endpoint will run. So which model to deploy, what instance type to use, how many instances to start, and how traffic should be distributed. So let's take a look at this endpoint configuration. We have our model dot deploy, and then we're specifying the initial instance count. So it's one EC2, the type of instance, and then the endpoint configuration name. The instance type determines cost and performance. So What we selected up here is cheap but slower, but this instance type costs more, but it handles more requests. So just like with anything, you choose based on your needs. Step 3, creating the endpoint. The endpoint is the actual running service. Creating it spins up instances, loads our model, and starts accepting requests. So let's take a look at our example. So we have model.deploy, and then we have our instance type, and then the endpoint name. This step takes several minutes. SageMaker is provisioning EC2 instances, downloading our model, starting containers, and initializing our model. You'll see the status change from creating to in service when it's ready. So 3 ways of invoking endpoints. Once your endpoint is in service, you can send a prediction request. There are 3 ways to do this. So method 1 is the AWS console test panel. So the console provides a test panel where you can paste input data and see predictions immediately. It's useful for quick checks, but not for production use. We paste our input data, so a JSON or a CSV file. Click Invoke Endpoint and see the response. There's no code required, just point and click. Method 2, the AWS CLI. So the CLI lets you invoke endpoints from the command line. So we're calling AWS SageMaker with AWS SageMaker runtime, and then giving the command invoke endpoint, specifying our endpoint name, content type, and then our body. And then I guess this is just for output, so it gets stored in output JSON file. This is useful for scripts, automation, and testing. The body parameter contains our input data, and the response gets written to a file. Method 3, Boto3 SDK. For production applications, we'll be using this. So we import Boto3 and JSON. We create a variable called runtime, and we specify the Boto3 client, so SageMaker. We have our response, so we're invoking that runtime, and then we're specifying the endpoint name, content type, and then the body. So the result, we load it from that JSON file, and we set it to this variable called result. This is how real applications call endpoints. Your web app, mobile app, or microservice uses Boto3 to send requests and get predictions. Now let's get into monitoring. So using CloudWatch, specifically CloudWatch logs and metrics. When your endpoint is running, you need to know what's happening. CloudWatch provides 2 ways to monitor. So CloudWatch logs show detailed information about what your endpoint is doing. So that would be when requests arrive, what data was sent, any errors that occurred, and debug information from our inference code. Logs are useful for troubleshooting with anything. So if a prediction fails, logs tell you why. If performance is slow, logs show you where time is being spent. CloudWatch metrics. Metrics are aggregated statistics about endpoint performance. So we have invocations, how many requests are our endpoint handled, model latency, how long predictions take, for XX errors, so client errors, bad input data, 5XX errors, server errors. So it would be like things like model crashing or timeouts. And then model setup time, how long it took to load the model or cold start. Metrics update every minute. They're useful for understanding overall performance and spotting trends. If latency spikes or errors increase, metrics show it immediately. Cost awareness. Endpoints cost money. Endpoints consume EC2 instances, and EC2 instances cost money. Even if our endpoint isn't receiving requests, you're paying for the compute time. Costs depend on instance type. So certain instance types will be cheaper than others, but also, again, you got to take uh, in account your use case. So just comparing the pros and cons of each. Uptime, an endpoint running 24/7 costs more than one running 8 hours per day. Different regions have different pricing. For production systems, this is expected. For learning and development, you should delete endpoints when you're done. A forgotten endpoint can cost hundreds of dollars per month. So again, always delete endpoints after labs and challenges. Verify deletion in the console to make sure we're not being charged. So in the lab today, we're deploying an AWS sample XGBoost model via the console, invoking the endpoint using the console test panel, invoking the endpoint using AWS CLI, writing a Boto3 script to invoke the endpoint programmatically, working with CloudWatch, and then we're going to be deleting the endpoint to avoid ongoing costs. By the end, we'll understand the complete lifecycle, so deployment, invocation, monitoring, and cleanup. And you'll also see how endpoints work in practice, the same way production ML services operate. So key takeaways, endpoints are live services that host models and respond to prediction requests. Deployment happens in 3 steps. So model, endpoint configuration, then endpoint. Invocation can happen via console, CLI, or Boto3 SDK. CloudWatch provides logs and metrics. And then so cost. Endpoints cost money while running. Always delete them when done. Any questions before we get into the lab? Okay, let's go. Let me set this up in my other screen real quick. All right, so I already have a virtual environment set up. So let me activate it. And that's done through source venv bin activate. Make sure this changes. All right, so in the lab, it tells us to navigate to our working directory, which we are already in. I went to my day 2 directory. So in the lab, it says download the XGBoost model artifact from S3. So the the reason of doing that is because the script will download the model artifact, extract it, and prepares it for local use. If the script fails, we can manually download and extract. So we don't have that script, so we're actually just going to be doing it the manual way. But this link is outdated, so I'll send you guys the working link in the chat. So I just posted it over there. Go ahead and run that. We'll just ignore this for right now. Let's see if we get any errors later on down the road. So next thing we're going to run is pip3 install XGBoost. upgrade pip install. And then I'm going to actually give you guys a script within our classroom channel. And this script will practically do everything that part zero asks for. Because notice how there's a yeah there's a bunch of scripts that it's mentioning, and yeah, we don't have that. Trying to move. All right, so I just posted the script inside the classroom channel. Just go ahead and run that in your terminal. And it should give you a it should create a Python file. So let's actually go through what it's doing real quick. So it's creating a simple XGBoost model for SageMaker deployment practice. One thing to change over here is our S3 bucket. So I ended up creating a bucket called Eric SageMaker Lab 2026. So you can do the same thing, but just of course just change your name. And then you're going to take that bucket name, and in line 72 of your Python file, just go ahead and go ahead and edit it. Save it. The next thing we want to do is run this command. I'll put it in the chat as well. So let's actually take a look at what we're installing. So brew install libbomp. So it's pretty much just letting us be able to use XGBoost. Go ahead and run that. So after you run that, I put in another command in the chat. Let's see what it does. So yeah, this is just the machine learning library for Python to train models to predict numbers, classify things into categories, cluster data, and evaluate our model's performance. So let's run that as well. After we install those two dependencies, let's actually run our Python file. Anybody know the quick shortcut to remove indentations on Mac?
Shift tab.
You said shift up or shift tab?
Shift tab.
Okay. All right, let's try to run that file now. Thanks, Okino. Ah, shoot. All right. So I forgot to replace that again. Let me go back. Shouldn't have created or it shouldn't have done anything because we don't have a bucket called your bucket, but let's just double check. Let's just do creation date. Yep, okay. Let's delete this and then try to rerun it. All right, so now we actually have to upload our model dot tar.gz directory into our S3 bucket. So let's just do a AWS configure list, make sure my system is pointing to the correct profile. It is not. Do AWS configure list profiles to see what my options are. So, I think there's a hyphen instead, maybe. WS. I just used it earlier too. I forget. Right. So I'm going to be using my AICO-Delta Eric profile. Let me set it. So export AWS underscore profile, all caps, and then just put this in. Let's do AWS configure list. Okay. And then now let's actually copy uh this folder to our S3 bucket. You can do that by AWS S3 CP, what you're trying to copy, and then the endpoint for your S3 bucket. So let's run that. Just double check. All right, sweet. All right, so we just everything we just did was for part 0. We already did part 1. So this one right here was just making sure our CLI was configured correctly. So prerequisites. This actually I don't know if we installed this already. Let's just run it. Let's just check our Python version. All right. So now we're actually getting into part 2. So let's try to work through that. So it says deploying via the console gives you visual feedback and helps you understand the deployment process. So let's go to our console and then go to SageMaker. Anybody see where that inference tab is?
The inference tab.
Yeah.
Mm. Would it be under the SageMaker AI?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's try that.
Oh.
Yep, inference right here. Then deployable models, I'm guessing. Let's try it out. All right, so this is where SageMaker stores model definitions. We're gonna be creating a model resource that points to the sample XGBoost artifact. So let's create a model. Let's name the model your first name and then XGBoost sample model. And then I'm just gonna use this IAM role. Exclusion role gives SageMaker permission to access S3 and create endpoints. So in the lab, it says enter the container image URI. I'm guessing we put it over here. Let's try it out. Then for the location of model artifacts, it's saying to use the pre-trained XGBoost model provided by AWS. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's create the model. Anybody have any reasons or guesses why we might have gotten this error? I'm thinking it should point to my S3 bucket, but does anybody agree or disagree? Let's try it out. The repository of your image. So this one right here doesn't grant download. Any guesses on which direction we should head? We're go I think we're gonna have to replace this with something else, but trying to figure out what. this for option one, this should already have it since it is an official XGBoost container. But let's go take a look at it. Or, I mean, we're probably not gonna have it, but let's try. All right, yep, there's nothing even to look at over here. All right, let's go to our IAM. Since we'll probably have to modify our policy and add these three. So forget which one we used. So simple SageMaker execution role. Policy or no roles. Create an inline policy. Then attach this policy. So let's actually take a look what these are doing. For this first one, lets the service. So SageMaker authenticate. Second one checks which parts are already available. And then generates a temporary URL to download each layer of the Docker image. Pulls the image manifest and layers in one request. Okay. So I guess the main thing I also want you guys to get out of this, since uh we're running into a lot of hiccups within the lab, just uh different processes on troubleshooting. So just kind of see how I'm thinking. And also if you have any inputs as well, feel free to just shout them out. So this also another good learning topic, because sometimes you really just have to figure things out on the go. You and create uh, ECR, SageMaker, policy. Uh, let's have ChatGPT make us a name. Give me a good name that would. distinguish this policy. All right, we'll go with this one. Since it's for SageMaker to pull images from the ECR, makes sense. All right. All right, let's try it again. Just double check that policy again. So get download URL for layer. All right, it doesn't seem like we have that. Let's check the next one, batch get image. We have that. Oh wait, we have the first one actually too. So these two right here. Batch check layer availability. Let's check that also. All right. Okay, let's try starting over with creating this model. Uh, So again, for the model name, your first name, then XGBoost sample model. Going to be using this role since we just added that policy. Let's retry that container image URI. And then our S3 bucket.
Understand the difference in repository policy.
So since we added that policy, I'm thinking maybe it's on that the error is due to this registry specific permissions. Oh, okay. I think we also have to add this right here. Trying to think of the best way to do this. Here, let's hopefully this works. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think you can have both. I
Yeah,
think one's the policy and one's the role. Um, I think it works just the same though. I think it depends on what the action is because what action are you trying to? I mean, you could always just be like just add all the actions for SageMaker if you really wanted to, just to cover your bets.
yeah.
Or if you really want to, you could change from the policy to the role. I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, so you're saying we
I'm
should
saying
probably
if you
just
really
create
want, I mean, I'm not sure what specific actions you're really trying to do and how the roles really work. But I mean, if you really want to be, I just say forget it. It doesn't really matter so much. Just go to the documentation and find all the actions. Um,
yeah. What I'm thinking
just
is
basically put it in there.
pretty much just gonna try to add that this actually this is very
It should cover anything and everything that you're trying to do.
actually yeah, what I was trying to do wasn't even correct because these are pretty much the same thing. Minus the get authorization token. And we're seeing in that error that it's due to those uh to those three policies. So even adding all of it, I don't think is going to work. And any more guesses?
Oh, I don't have a guess. Like what actually, yeah, one. Like I said, I think the role's already there. I'm sorry, that one is the policy versus the
Yeah,
role. But like I said again, I think they all really do the same thing. Because I know the I am role is like it assumes an identity, and from the identity,
okay,
that person can perform certain actions, right?
yeah.
Has a has the authority to perform certain actions or grant access to certain resources, right? And I am policy basically defines the actions that can be performed. I mean, for the most part, they kind of do the same thing in a sense, to an extent. But I believe the difference is like one of them is like resource based and one's like identity based. Like the role is a resource identity based. Policies, I think, resource based or both, maybe.
So
If I remember correctly.
so
So but the actions they could take, like
so
like
policies get attached to roles. So roles are kind of just different. For example, maybe you have different teams. So maybe you have a QE tester, and then you have maybe I don't know, maybe DevOps. So then you have two different roles for them, and then you attach the policies to those roles so that both teams have different permissions.
yeah, kind of think. But like I said, I think policies has more to do with resources and identity. Like a certain person, a certain identity, a certain role could do certain things, as opposed to a policy, which is the resources them. Like certain, it could be a person, it could be a resource that could do something. Like a Lambda having access to SageMaker. But also somebody has the policy have an action. Like I said, I don't think it really matters. Like if you really, I think the best course of action is to just keep the policy as it is. Because I think what we have is basically SageMaker having the ability to do whatever and just simply add as many actions as you like, add all the actions. Because I mean, some of them might even be irrelevant because like I said, I'm not quite sure what you're specifically trying to do, and I can't tell you off the top of my head all the actions.
So
I know where to find it in the documentation.
yeah, no. So earlier I just I kind of I just misread this wrong, and I thought that we didn't have the SageMaker policies in, and I thought it was all just for the ECR. So that's why I was trying to combine these two. But I reread it again. It's like, yeah, these are pretty much the same thing, or they
Yeah.
are the same thing minus that one policy. So, and then also going back to our role, I see that there's already full access to SageMaker. So we didn't even have to add that policy. So now where my mind is at is I'm trying to figure out why or what needs these permissions since we're trying to use that role, but it already has the full access. So I'm thinking, yeah, so it is this this image
The
this
resource
registry type.
itself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or the
But
image.
I was also thinking if it was based on the lab, where's it at? So it says right here, this is the official XGBoost container image. SageMaker uses this to run our model. The image includes pretty much all the dependencies. So reading that, I was thinking like this should already have those permissions if it's the official container image. People are already probably like a lot of people probably use it. So
Yeah, it should. I would agree with that.
So now we're just stuck on trying to,
Validation error because it doesn't grant permission to SageMaker. Why doesn't it grant that permission to SageMaker? That specific image. Do you find the image? It's a resource, right?
yeah, but so it's probably under
Well,
another
it's your
account, like this
image.
account.
Yeah.
Is
It's
it,
not a general image, it's your image, specific image.
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, like I said, that particular image belongs to that account, like you said.
No, I was gonna say it belongs to a different account, and I believe this the account ID. So 48 4
Mhm.
8 12. Yeah.
Isn't that your image? Isn't that associated with the SageMaker you're using?
What do you mean?
Well, my understanding is that each sage, I mean, your particular SageMaker, the resource you just spun up should have its own image, right? Is that it?
Is what is I haven't spun anything up yet,
Oh.
so that's what I'm getting confused on. What did
Mm.
you mean by that?
I mean, the resource itself, right? It doesn't the resource itself have its own image for XG boost? Like your particular each my understanding is that each SageMaker as a resource has its own image container for XGBoost, correct? And that's what we're looking at right now.
Uh, so what do you think? Which direction do you think we should head towards in regards to this? So you're saying already, like I should look for my image. So where do you think I can find that?
I don't know if it's been created
Like
yet. Um,
because like we're using like and we're trying to use an official image, and I haven't
X
spun anything up yet. So all we did was
mm,
push up that model to our S3 bucket. So that's all we've done so far. So this right here.
sample number server parameter. Mm, training. Yeah.
Here, let's.
So I actually did a search
Mhm,
um, for that URL,
mhm.
and the internet led me to this like deep learning containers blob masters on GitHub. I posted the link in chat. And one thing I did notice was there's like reading through this, it mentioned that you must log in to access the DLC image repository before pulling the image. So I wonder if there's like a login step that needs to be done before creating it, though before the creation. This is only an assumption because I really don't know.
Well, no, it makes sense because if I would explain why we don't have permissions because we haven't been logged in yet because we haven't been authorized yet. So I think it's a good logical path. That may be the case.
Wait, so
Yeah,
Kim, you're saying log into where? Because I know uh for Docker containers, for example, you have a Docker Hub, and yeah, you would have to. Well, even those, like you can pull somebody else's Docker image
Correct.
through there.
yeah. If you scroll down, you'll see important. There's like just a little small important. There it is. I don't know if this is necessary, but it's just something I saw just by searching in DuckDuck.
Wait, uh,
Doesn't mean anything.
Because like even if you just go to the URL, it does ask you to log in.
were you talking about this URL or something else? The DL.
The URL for the
The
resource?
Yeah, the 763 or the 763.dkr ECR. If you actually go to it, it's an actual URL where you can log in.
Oh, you need the region, which is East. I think US East one.
Mm. Mm,
Then you can log in with your
put anything in there. You guys trust it?
yeah, dude.
Hell
It's
no.
not a bad thing. I mean, it's
Isn't
Don't
this
worry,
the
your
same
login
step
information will
that's
be
right
sent
beneath it
securely.
though?
What was that?
Isn't that the same step that's right but below it if you go back to the lab that the CLI, isn't that what that's doing? That AWS DCR get login, Docker login with the username and password? When you went back to this whatever screen you were on where
Oh,
where Kim was showing you, okay, because Kim had said for you to log into the link, but that step below it, is that not that same thing? You see?
okay, yep. So there's already like a local community username password. So let's try it. But I'm wondering why there's a hyphen instead of a space right here.
Because that looks like standard input, password, standard input. Username is AWS. Yeah,
And then this is the password.
that's what I'm
apparently.
thinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, standard function. As you,
All right, you guys want to try to run it on the terminal? Well, hold on. Well, actually, I'm trying to figure out how it's going to link because we're running it on the console.
yeah, I think you might need the same resource, I think. Or maybe change the name of the wait, it's no, like you said, it's a common resource or something like that, right? Or common Docker image. Everyone uses. I think it's the same one as in your AWS resource, SageMaker resource, right?
Uh,
Yeah, the same it's the same URI, right? Or URL as in SageMaker. Yeah, 736. Yeah, it's the same one. 736, 763. Yeah, I think it's the same one.
yeah, but my question was, I'm trying to figure out how it'll know that we're logged in because uh like we're not using the CLI, so we would probably have to log in through that website that we just visited. But like if we hit create model, is that going to be like trying to get an authentication return from that website or
Well, I don't want to make any assumptions on this particular case, but I know with even with our AWS credentials, it's actually stored somewhere, of course, encrypted on on my MacBook. I kind of know where the file location is at, so that it can be referenced anytime whenever I need to log into AWS from a terminal. So I'm assuming, again, just an assumption, it works the same way, that once you log in, your credentials will be saved, however long, whatever policy there is, just have it saved for however long and however it's going to be encrypted. Am I making sense? Like it's going to be stored somewhere on your system. I'm sorry, your laptop or system. And it has to be definitely somewhere else that could be referenced and accessed by whatever resource might need it. And it'll probably be standard. Again, these are just assumptions based on standard practices. But that's different though, right? The image container resource, is it different from
So you said the image container resource, so
yeah, I
uh
just want to confirm it's the same container resource that you're essentially trying to log into. Because I think that's exactly what it is. I think you probably do need to log in, maybe possibly. I think that's one course of action. Because clearly, like as it's stated to us, the error is that you don't have permissions to access those resources. Or
you guys want to try it?
I actually
Okay.
do.
Okay.
Unless you
Yeah,
guys want to debate it some more.
I was gonna say I can test it and see if it just blows up in our faces. I don't mind.
Yeah, I can do it on the screen so we can all see if it does. Alright. But also, I was looking at this and it says Docker login. So
You probably have to run it in your terminal, maybe.
yeah, let's try it. All right, we got denied. Let's try on a terminal.
Login succeeded.
Try it.
Probably not.
Unless we try to create that model from our command line.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Seems like a headache though.
All right. Y- you guys, I guess this should be a good stopping point. Uh, let me stop recording.